Hey guys, Tim here, Big Dog Forge. Welcome back. So we're going to make some pattern welded steel, some Damascus. We got some wrought iron, and this is off an old logging chain. We're going to straighten this guy out, and we'll bring him down to 5/8 inch round using the press and the power hammer to match the other two. We've got a coil spring off of a Jeep, and the straight rod we've got there is W1. Came from the store. I've had it around for quite some time, never really did much with it. So we're going to use it in this project. There you go. We heat these guys up and get them into a straight shape to match the other one. Bring them down into the proper cross section so we have equal amounts of steel. We won't be using this entire ring. It's almost 3/4 of an inch in the thicker spots. It's got some thin spots due to rust, but those aren't going to get in our way. We'll simply draw it all out and take what we need. There we go. And we'll straighten out this coil spring while we're at it. And the coil spring won't need anything more done to it. It's a fraction smaller than the other two pieces. It's a little closer to a 1/2 inch mark, but it'll be just fine. So we've got a little kiss block on the other side. We're actually using the W1 rod to bring this down to the same size, and we'll square it off. And this is drawing that wrought iron out quite a bit. So like I said, we won't be using the entire ring. And we're looking for sections about 32 inches long to match the length of the other pieces that we have. Hot cut at the length we need. And then Scrappy will help us round this off and clean it up. I really do like working with this stuff. It's a pretty highly refined wrought iron, and it works really nicely up at temperature. So this piece of steel is being sent to another YouTuber, Kaitlin, at Ouroboros Armory. I think that's how you pronounce it. In any case, on a live stream, and I had this, and she said she had been looking for some, so I told her I'd just send it to her. So I'll leave a link in the description below to her channel. You can check it out and see what she makes out of this. Should be fun. So there you go, Kaitlin. This one's for you. There we go. We'll get these three pieces welded together, and what we're going to do is we're going to braid them. Now, I don't expect that this particular piece of pattern welded steel or Damascus, what have you, will actually show a braided pattern, but it will add some difference to a standard pattern that you might have. There's going to be quite a bit of forge welding involved because we're going to have to bring this down far enough to fill in all the voids between these braids. So ultimately what we'll do is, there's a lot of material here. We'll use half of it for another project, but the part we're going to use for this particular project, that half, will end up forging it down to a 5/8 inch cross section. And that should get rid of all of the voids that are in it, and then we'll move forward from there. There we go. We'll get this guy into the forge and get into some squaring dies in Floyd to press. Just start squaring it up and compressing that. It's sort of like when you twist metal, you end up with raised areas, and it's almost impossible to get rid of them unless you compress it far enough. That's why we're going to take this down. Now those are 1 1/4 inch squaring dies, and you can see how large this piece is compared to those. So by the time we get down to 5/8 of an inch, it should be pretty straight, solid, with no voids. Should work pretty well. And we kept it at welding temperature throughout most of this. And you're going to notice that the area closest to the handle, a little cooler. We'll have to deal with that in a bit, but it's not a big deal. So what I'm simply doing is flattening and drawing out half of this. We'll remove that from the parent bar and set it aside for another project a little later on. That's the half we're going to set aside for the moment. And this half we're going to continue with. And we'll continue drawing this down. Because it was getting so long, it wasn't fitting in the forge very well, so the end towards the tongs was staying a little cooler. And we do have some separation and delamination there, but we will deal with that later on down the line. And we've got a piece of 5/8 inch square, using it as a kiss block. Same here, and we will bring that down into a square shape. Now we still have a few small areas where there's some little bit of delamination, a few voids, things like that. Not worried about that at all. We're going to be able to close those up without a problem. And we're using the press here to get rid of any of the rhombus and square them up, make them all as close as we can, so we can get them in the surface grinder, and we'll grind two sides on these guys. And this one's got a pretty good delamination in one end. You can see it there on the right. But like I said, I'm not worried about that at all. We'll be taking care of that here in a bit. So we ran them through one at a time and cleaned up two sides so we could weld them together. And we've got, actually I have 5 pieces here. The first piece is a piece of 1084. We're going to be turning this into a knife, and we want one edge that's consistent. And there's a delamination for you. Like I said, by the time we're done with this, this is going to be one solid piece of steel. So we're only going to weld down the ends because we don't want to put any weld inclusions in the side. There we go. I'm using a little different mixture of flux these days. About 10% steel powder with anhydrous borax, and it seems to be working really well. It seems to be a little bit of an improvement over just regular borax. So we're going to get this under the power hammer, and we are keeping it up at welding temperature. As a matter of fact, I'm a little higher than my normal welding temperatures. I was right at about 2325 degrees Fahrenheit. 2325 degrees Fahrenheit. And I was letting it soak to make sure that we could get those delaminations taken care of. And we reduced this thing more than 50% of its size, so it's in that reduction and that heat and pressure, it took care of all the delaminations. They all went away, and it ended up being a nice solid piece. So we'll get this thing under the surface grinder once it cools, get the handle off of it. And I wanted to thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it, and all the support that the little channel has been getting lately. We'll get this into some ferric chloride so we can see this pattern. We're going to call this one good, guys. I really appreciate you stopping by Big Dog Forge, and if you think about it, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for everything, guys. Take care. Be safe now. Bye-bye.